All right, everybody, we got to stop the presses a little bit. We got to hold up on printing those newspapers. You got to pull the lever on the side of the big machine that prints them out. I don't know if anybody reads newspapers anymore, but the point is, we got to hold up on the news report today. I said earlier today in that video I posted from my car that we didn't have official word on DK Metcalf yet, but it sounded like it was fine. Well, a little bit ago we got official word, and it's not quite fine. It's not terrible, but I don't know if I would call it good either. So, according to Adam Schefter and many, many other sources, Schefter's on screen here with the tweet. Seahawks wide receiver DK Metcalf, who left Sunday's win over Atlanta with a knee injury, suffered a grade 1 sprained MCL and now will be considered week to week per source. So a grade 1 sprained MCL is not the worst injury that you can suffer. It's not something that's going to cost you your season. It's not something that's going to require major surgery. So it could have been worse. Don't get it twisted, but it could have been better. And if we're being real here, most NFL receivers miss at least a game with a grade 1 sprained MCL. So the moniker week to week is indicating that he's likely to miss at least a little bit of time. So this is not what we wanted to hear. It's the one significant injury that I know of that we had yesterday. If we had gotten clear of that, we would have been good to go. We would have been feeling great about things. But now, I don't know. Condota got this from McDonald just a little bit ago. Afternoon Zoom meeting with the media. According to McDonald, Metcalf minor MCL sprain, so he confirms it. And Metcalf will do what he can to try to play this week, which implies there's a chance. But it also indicates to me that McDonald's trying to be a little bit deceptive here. He's trying to not give away too much. He's trying to hold back a little bit, as much as he can, on telling his opponent what they're going to have to deal with or not deal with. I mean, if Metcalf plays this week, then he's an absolute Terminator. If Metcalf can get out there against the Buffalo Bills this weekend, then he's not built like even other football players. We know he's not built like normal people, but if he gets out there this Sunday after a grade 1 MCL sprain, then he's not built like even other star football players, because this is usually something that will cost you, I'd say, 2 games on average. So you take a look at the schedule coming up. You've got the Bills, which is obviously a really interesting game, right? The Bills, they're playing well, but they're not, they're not infallible, right? They got blown out by Baltimore. They lost a really weird game to Houston. They didn't play well for about the first 35 minutes of that Titans game, and then they just opened up the floodgates on them. They have problems, but you're going to be hard-pressed to beat them if you don't have your number 1 receiver, especially when he's the thing that ultimately opens up the whole rest of your offense. But at this point, I think we have to just assume that we're not going to have Metcalf this week. I would be very surprised if he made it back for this game. So let's just accept that. The interesting one becomes the home game the next week against the LA Rams. And the Rams, we'll see if they get their players back the next couple weeks. We'll see if they get Cup back. We'll see what's going on with Puka. See what's going on with that offensive line. You really need to win this game. You do not need to be starting 0-2 in the division. You do not need to be sacrificing a potential tiebreaker against 2 competitors in the division. You do not need to be pumping life back into that Rams season, right? You don't need to be doing any of that. But you get the bye week the next week, right? You see what I'm getting at here? If you just get through these next 2 games, Metcalf gets 3 weeks off. And then you're getting him back for maybe the most important game of the year in San Fran against a Niners team that is clearly wounded. So that's the gamble here. And I think that's going to be the ultimate question. Let's just assume he's not going to play against Buffalo. Like, he's going to try. Good for him. Proud of him for doing it. If he plays this week against Buffalo, then he's more machine than man. Like, that's the only way I can put it, because you pretty much always miss a game when you have this kind of an injury. But do you want to force him back in there against the Rams? Maybe take the risk of him not being himself? Take the risk of him not being 100%, maybe re-aggravating it? Or do you want to punt on that? Maybe try to beat the Rams anyway. The Rams are not playing all that well, right? The Rams have big issues. The Rams might be missing their 2 best receivers for this game. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with Kupp and Puka. And then you get the week off where you get maximum time to prep for that Niners game that you need. You more than likely are going to need it. Getting swept by the Niners and still winning the division is tough. It's possible. Don't get me wrong, it's possible, but you need that Niners game more than you even need that Rams game, I think. Especially coming off the bye week. So, this is a tough decision to make. We'll see what ends up shaking out the next couple weeks, but, I mean, it sucks, right? It sucks. This offense does not go as well without DK Metcalf. It just doesn't. You give the opposing defense a lot less to think about. Now, in some better injury news from McDonald at his Zoom meeting today, Woolen should be back in some capacity on Wednesday, according to McDonald, or at least they hope. And they're a little less optimistic about Trey Brown. So, Woolen very likely to be back for the Bills game. Trey Brown, not so sure about. Obviously, of those two, you'd much rather have Woolen back, though. George Fant could be back this week, and Stone Forsythe could be back as well. Abe Lucas, it's implied, could return to practice this week, but he wouldn't be ready to play Sunday even if he did. So there's a lot of mystery going on at right tackle right now. I have to believe that Fant would play over Gerald. At this point, I don't think there's any point in putting Forsythe in for him, though. So if Forsythe is better, if he's healthy for that game, I think he's just going to be the backup left tackle or backup swing tackle, whatever. And then you just let Gerald go. But I don't think Gerald would take priority over Fant, because Fant is actually a veteran. Fant is actually capable of playing really good all-around football some of the time. I don't know if Gerald's there yet. So we'll see what shakes out, but the injury news is not looking all bad. It just would have been nice to escape that one little nick. If we had just gotten past that Metcalf injury without anything long-term, it would have been basically a completely clean game. All right. I will see you guys later today. More videos coming. We're going to do the Pro Football Focus stuff as we always do. But I kind of had to stop the presses for this one because it's a little bit worse than we thought. And like I said, if Metcalf plays this weekend, then he's made of different stuff. All right. See you guys later. Go Hawks. And get better DK Metcalf.